I'm Amy and I'm the Digital Marketing Executive here at In Professional Development. And we recently launched our Executive Education and Professional Training Programme. And over the last week, a couple of our tutors have attended this programme. So today I'm joined by the wonderful James Willerton, who we are going to speak to in a moment to find out a little bit more about his experience and how this course is going to help him in his professional executive education development. Hi James, how are you?
Hi Amy, I'm all better for being called wonderful, so I'll say anything you want me to say now. That's a good start.
Well, there we go. It's always the way to someone's heart, charm. As I mentioned, we recently launched this programme, and for us it's quite a groundbreaking programme really, because we're aiming to set new industry standards and that bar in executive education. So I think the best way to kind of kick this off is to learn a little bit more about you, about your background, and then we can talk about the programme wider and how it's going to support you as a tutor.
Yeah, well, hopefully I'm a bit of a test case. So I'm what you might call an accidental trainer. I came into this as probably career 3.0. I've done various things in my career before this. I've never been an academic and was always going to be a trainer and a teacher. But I have run businesses before. That's my main background, was in private sector from probably 25 years of age. And I always got involved in professional, personal development, both for myself and for my team back in those days. And it's always stayed with me as a thing I'm interested in. And I guess as I've got older and less energetic, so maybe not so good for the rough and tumble of private sector world anymore, but I'm just really interested in leadership. I'm really interested in coaching and mentoring. I'm interested in how organizations and teams work together. Yep. And so I can end up taking that on to a professional level. So originally I got asked to do some training in recruitment because I know about recruitment. That was my kind of first foray into professional executive development. And then it just got formalized over the years. So I've been doing kind of level 7 and level 5, mostly level 7 training now for probably 5 years. In various topics. It's all broadened out into pretty much anything to do with executive education now. But because I haven't had that educational academic background like some of my colleagues do, I have always felt a little bit disadvantaged really. And so it was really useful for me to attend the course to try and fill those gaps in.
Exactly, and you've just pointed out something there. You were an accidental trainer, and I suppose at the time that you became this trainer, there was nothing on the market to help you gain that qualification to be recognized as a trainer. Would you say that that's correct?
Absolutely, yes. So as an accidental trainer, what often happens is you're told, right, here's a cohort ready to go, here's a couple of slides, if you're lucky, off you go and train them. So I think typically, I don't know if anybody else would share my experiences, but it's very typical. You are pretty much thrown into the deep end, and because we're in commercial world and we know there's usually financial implication, it's delivery that's the important thing. So it's quite difficult sometimes as a new trainer or even quite an experienced one to say, actually, I need to, practice what I preach. I need to learn more about my craft in a technical sense, rather than just going in the hamster wheel every day.
Absolutely.
So for me, it was an opportunity just to take that step out.
Absolutely, and what we've said about this course is it is a great way for trainers and tutors to bolster their CV and get those, those skills. And I think that leads us nicely into the next question, which is all around looking at your learning experience and how you're going to use your learnings to, lead delegates, train delegates, but to also substantiate your experience. What would you say that your main takeaway from that program was, and how do you plan on using it?
A few things. So I really enjoyed the course. I think any trainer who has the opportunity to talk to other trainers in a safe environment for a week, that's a real gift. Normally we have the feedback forms and critical delegates, critical sponsors, all the rest of that on our backs, and it can be a bit of a goldfish bowl. So to have that time, first of all, to spend with colleagues that you respect, that's a real gift. And you pick stuff up, you pick stuff up of people's practicing conversation. That's really valuable and really useful, because so often it's a lone wolf experience. We just don't get that time to interact enough. So I really enjoyed that aspect. I think in terms of the other things, the structural things, there's a lot of things that trainers will look at on this course and recognize in practice that they kind of already do on an instinctive level, but haven't formalized it yet. So for example, we looked at Bloom's taxonomy, and so you know, we're all familiar with level 7s, level 5s and level 3s and all that kind of stuff, but actually looking at where that comes from and the different educational levels, a lot of us found, I think, quite useful on the program, this last program. And I think also there's a little bit of opportunity to test run some new stuff in a field of peers without having to go live with it straight away. So that was really useful to get some feedback. And I think as well, the time just to reflect is always wonderful. So, you know, even, you know, without the program, just to have that structure, to that guidance from the tutors around you to really think and reflect a little bit is really valuable anyway. And I think for me, probably as well, I'd say a little bit around the structural component of good practice of doing a good day. You kind of know it, but it really helps to reinforce the structure so that then if you get that session really good, you can take that practice on and work with that. So there's a number of things in there that were really, really valuable, I think.
Because is there anything noticeable that you think, yes, I'm going to use that the next time I deliver? In the sense of, you know, you talked about models, but is there any teaching tactics that, say, potential new trainers might think, do you know what? Yes, I need to build my skills in that area.
The one thing probably that I'd like to think that a lot of trainers will get out of this is to develop a bit of courage to fail a bit more. You know, which sounds a bit odd, but actually to improve your practice requires a little bit of risk, a little bit of iteration, and sometimes to try something a little bit out there, a little bit new. And that's good not just for your own practice, it's good for you personally because you're more engaged with the challenge of doing something a bit stretchy. It's good for your students because they can see you actually trying to lead by example, trying to do something new and different sometimes. And so I think it helps the whole conversation.
Absolutely. And again, this brings us very nicely to talking about, you know, we've said that this course could be for long-standing trainers, it could be for new trainers who have just entered the world, or people who are actually considering, you know, taking that next step into training. But what would be the benefits to them, would you say, of doing this course?
I think it'd be great for anybody who wants to build their confidence up a little bit if they're feeling low on it. I think it'd be great for anybody who's procuring training in an organisation to understand what good looks like in a more structured sense. And so you can then act as some kind of learning and development supervisor then. You know, you understand how it should look, how it should work, what gold standard is, what kind of best practice you'd be looking to try and promote across the organisation, especially if you're using disparate consultants. So I think there'll be benefits there for those kind of people. But really anybody who's involved in training and development, who even if you're quite experienced, you know, I was fairly experienced going into it in different ways, but I think just that space, time, structure to reflect accurately on what you're up to. You know, we would practice that in the classroom to our delegates. So I think if you're going to stand up there with authenticity, practice what you preach and all of that, I think it's really important that we take our own development on quite seriously too. So this course helps with that in particular.
100%. And you mentioned it very briefly there about, you know, I can't remember your exact terms, but it alludes to the fact that this certification is not just for, you know, people within executive education. It will support those who are responsible for booking learning and development within their organisations, won't it?
Yeah, I think probably people who have done some delivery, so they understand the mechanics of that, and maybe still do a bit of delivery now, but maybe more responsible for others who are doing it, or colleagues, or you know, you probably want to have a little bit delivery angle to it, but at the same time, I don't think you need to be a full-time deliverer to get something really valuable from this course. So I do think it has a good broad appeal, and I know, practically speaking as well, it's, you know, it's delivered for tutors, by tutors, amongst tutors. People are in the same kind of trenches as you, and it's just really nice to have that kind of conversation. We had some really, really deep and meaningful academic discussions on various interesting topics to do with what we're about, you know. And we found that really stimulating and really interesting to have those opportunities. So, yeah, it's a pretty broad brush, I think, in terms of who it would appeal to.
Good. And one thing we should mention is that, we said that this is a certification and there are two different levels of certification. And I know you're currently looking at doing one yourself. And the completion of that certification it's like a golden stamp, really. So it makes the job of, like HR and L&D professionals a lot easier when they're trying to find a good, solid trainer for their organisation, for like an in-house project, doesn't it? It's got that. It's like a stamp or a seal of approval to say I'm good at what I do, and I've proven it.
Yeah, I think we're about standardization. Well, just raising standards generally across the tutor pool. And again, I think having partaken in this kind of course and gained this kind of qualification, it shows that you're serious about your craft, and you're not just rocking up as a jobbing trainer. And I think, again, maybe because the level we work at, because we tend to work with executives, I think there is an onus there to take your own development seriously if we're in the business of self-development. I think it's difficult. And tutors can fall into that comfort zone a little bit. There's something they've trained for 20 years and it works for them, so they're going to continue to do it the same way.
Yeah.
But sometimes necessary to rattle your cage a little bit and challenge those assumptions a little bit. And yeah, I think most people will get some value from looking at other people's approaches, views, practices, and as well as some of the academic principles that underpin the whole thing educationally. It's a really useful, beneficial, enjoyable experience to partake in.
Good. And that brings us very, very nicely and neatly to the end of this. It has been great hearing about your experience, and good luck with your assignments, and we'll look forward to giving you your seal of approval.
Thank you very much, Amy. Pleasure to be here. Thanks very much.
Thank you. See you later.